Hi, this is Aiden Murray, and this is my planning project for PUP 424. So, in terms of the data that I used, I looked at Zillow home prices in the city of Surprise, Arizona. This is a city that I've lived in my whole life. I'm very familiar with it. I'm very familiar on the community park and all the different streets and overall locations within the city. So it was easy for me to navigate and know where I was going without having too much difficulty. I started from the community park, using this as my reference point. I took 10 random samples of current housing prices from 3 separate areas, the closest being within a 2-mile radius to the park, the next one being within a 2+ to a 4-mile radius, so sort of in the middle, and then my last area was a 5 or more mile radius. And I used no more than 4-bedroom homes to keep the data in a controlled environment. My data was collected, as I said, using current Zillow home prices on Zillow.com. I organized these in Microsoft Excel using columns. I averaged each column to solidify my findings regarding the change in home prices, in location, and proximity to the community park, as stated before. In my findings, I solidified that, in fact, the farther away you get from that green space and a park, the home prices drop. It went down by around an average of 30,000 per area. So it started around 450 on average, 430, and then went down to 410, and then dropped off significantly to 466 once you got 5 or more miles away from that park. So as you can see, it's definitely a significant drop off. It emphasizes the need and want for that large community space within a city, within the local area, and it shows that developers and owners of the properties can charge more when the location is prime, especially when it's a younger community, a family-oriented community. They're willing to pay more for that proximity to a green space, to a community park. Places like suburban areas or hotter climates, as we have here in Arizona, enjoy that large green space. It cools the air down, it cools the ground down, and it's a good place to go with your family, with your friends. And if you have to drive 5-10 miles to get to it, you're less likely to go, and you're less likely to want to pay a higher premium to live in that area. It signifies that even smaller communities like Surprise, it's not full of millions of people, maybe 100, 200,000. Even in those communities, they crave that idea of a community park. That green space, as I said just before, is vital for all communities, but especially these tighter knit communities where everybody knows somebody. And it shows that money is where the environment and that space is emphasized. The money is there. If you don't want to spend money, you go farther away from the city, you go farther away from those central points. Even in a big city like Phoenix, the higher dollar houses, higher dollar living is in downtown. The farther you go from that central area, the more the housing prices drop. That's what created these suburban areas in the first place. And if you're a developer, if you're a homeowner, you want to sell your home for a high value, you have to be near a park. You have to be near that green, that community space. A couple questions that this brings up is, how can similar space be implemented more frequently within cities and towns? How can we do this without seeming like on every corner there's a park, as opposed to a gas station or a grocery store? You don't want it to feel overwhelming in this green space, but you want it to be often enough to where people don't feel excluded. They don't feel like they have to get in their car and drive especially when it comes to sustainability costs and environmental things in the future. That pollution that you can save by having walkable cities, by having green space every couple miles, will be immense in the future. And another question that this asks is just how big of a space these people desire. A lot of these communities within the city of Surprise have little greenbelt areas, little small parks within them, but that doesn't change the overall average of those home prices. It doesn't matter if you're far away from the community park. If you don't have that access, even if you have a small little playground in your area, the housing prices are still going to be lower. And that's something that is a challenge that needs to be implemented and worked on, but can easily be solved when it comes to future development or urban redevelopment. Just a couple concluding thoughts before I end this is that parks and green space, as I've said numerous times throughout this, are vital to communities. This is something that developers need to focus on. This is something that cities need to require more of. It will drive the revenue up, it will drive the finances up, and it will make people happier when they want to live there and they want to get outside and exercise and go meet with people, as opposed to staying indoors or driving really long distances to get to somewhere. It'll create a whole different atmosphere within the city and within each individual home. So thank you again. This is Abe Murray with Planning Project for PUP 424.